Today we're going to be writing equations and we're going to be graphing from equations and using intercepts. The first part could be extremely confusing just because it looks weird, but it's actually extremely easy. So let's do this. Number one on that page says x equals 3, okay? So here's our graph. Okay, and we're supposed to graph this line. Now we know that this will make a straight line, and the reason that we do know that is because there's no exponent in this larger than the invisible 1. Okay, so we know it's going to make a straight line. The easiest thing for this is, now you don't have to make a t-chart, but I want to show you with the first one what happens in a t-chart. It says x equals 3. So x equals 3 if y is 0, x equals 3 if y is -1, x equals 3 if y is 5, x equals 3 if it's -3. Okay, so if we plotted these points, here's 1, 2, 3, 0, 3, -1, 3, 5, and 3, -3. And if you notice, it does make a straight line. Got this one a little off. Let's look up. Okay. It does make a straight line all the way through where x equals 3. Do y'all see? X equals 3. So I find where x is 3, and any equation that has just an x, no y's, will always be a vertical line. If it starts with x, no y's in it, it will always be a vertical line. Y'all see? So if I had the equation, x equals -2, then I know because it's only an x, it's going to be an up and down line, vertical, and it's going to go across where x is -2. X is -2 right here. So I don't even need a t-chart unless you need to remember, and it will be a vertical line going down through the x-axis. Vertical line. Y'all see? Mm-hmm. Pretty easy. In the same way is y equals 4, okay? Y equals 4. Since the x equation is a vertical line, the y equation is always horizontal, always. Now again, let me make sure that you're listening. If it's y and there's no x's in it, the y's by itself, it will be a horizontal line, and it'll go across the y-axis at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. The y equals a number is horizontal. The x equals a number is a vertical line. Any questions? So on the next page, they turn it around backwards and they give you a graph. And then they say, write the equation for this line. So let's do that. Okay, the next page is page 4 in packet 3, and it gives you this graph. This is the x, this is the y. And that straight line came right down here. So what is the equation of this line? That's all they give you, is just a graph. But we can see that it is a vertical line. So how does that equation start?
X, right?
Good. X equals
4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually 5.
5. Okay,
You guys
5.
knew what you were talking about, right? Okay. What about this one? Give me the equation of this line.
Y equals 5. No, 1, 2, 3, 4.
One,
Y equals 4.
Y3.
1, 2, 3. This is 0.
Oh, it's 3.
Okay. Y equals 3. But y'all get the idea, right?
Yes.
Okay, those are super easy, but they're the most confusing to students if they don't get to see it. Next page talks about graphing using your intercepts. First of all, we will review what it means to be an intercept. An intercept. An intercept is a point on either the X or the Y axis. An intercept. So, just to be clear here, if we have a graph, this is the X, this is the Y axis. So if I have a point right here, we know that's an intercept because it's on one of the axes. What kind of intercept is it? X or Y?
Axis.
It's an X intercept. Simply because it's on the X axis. This is a Y intercept. Intercept. Because it's a point on the Y axis.
The Y axis, yeah.
You see?
Yes, ma'am.
So an intercept has to be on the X or the Y axis. Okay? Now this page 5 has you graph a line if they only give you intercepts. Well, guess what? I have an X-intercept and a Y-intercept. Look at that. I could draw a line right through that because all you need to graph a line is 2 points. The end. So let's do number 1 on that worksheet page. Looks like this. Graphing intercepts. Up at the top it says sheet 1 and it gives you intercepts. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So number 1 says it says the X-intercept is at 1. That's the X-intercept because it lies on the axis. The Y-intercept is at -1. All you do is graph the 2 intercepts, draw a line through the 2 intercepts. That's how you graph a line using the intercepts. Again, pretty easy.
Yes.
Okay, just remember what an intercept is.
Okay.
Now, this last one, I want to make sure that you understand it. There's a little bit more explanation, but not bad because you've already done part of this. So I'm going to the next page in the packet, and this is the last one that we're going to talk about today. Let's do number 1. Looks like this. Up at the top again, it says sheet 1, graphing a line. And the equation they give you is 3y minus 15 equals negative 6x. Okay?
Okay.
So here's number 1. 3y minus 15 equals negative 6x. This is our problem, and they tell us to graph this line. Now, you actually could, if you get to the test and you forget what I'm going to show you now, you can always make a t-chart, just like we did the other day. You choose your x's, solve for y. Or in some students' case, you solve for y and then plug in the x's. But you can do a t-chart. I'm going to show you a shorter way, and I know that all of my students like shortcuts. So you're not going to get away from solving for y. You have to solve for y. Here we go. I want the y by itself, so I only look on the y side. I've got to get rid of the minus 15 and the 3. Remembering that the 3 is the best friend, I'm going to get rid of the straggler and add 15. Now, when I go over here, 15 that I'm going to need to add to both sides is a plain number, not an x number. So I don't put it directly under the x. It needs its own spot. Now this becomes 0. Of course, we've learned that quite a while ago. Now we have 3y equals, and because x's can't be added to plain numbers, we have to write both of these separately. So I have a negative 6x plus 15. We've been working on solving for y for a while. I want to solve for y, so again, I'm looking at this side only. I have to get rid of the 3. It's multiplied to the y, so I'm going to divide by 3. Some teachers teach divide by 3. It's less confusing, I think, if you put the 3 under each piece. You can do it either way. Now, the 3 divided by 3 is 1. I have the y left over, 1y equals. I'm going to look at this fraction right here, and I'm going to see if it will simplify. You can put that in your calculator and see if it'll simplify, or you can do it by hand. Negative 6 divided by 3 actually comes out a whole number, negative 2x plus 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now, when we have something solved for y, a reminder to you, this is called the slope intercept form of the line. The slope intercept form, and that simply means that it's been solved for y. Now, a reminder to you that the pattern for the slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So in this case, I see that this is the m, the slope, because it's the coefficient in front of the x, and this, with its sign, is the y-intercept. Now for your notes, I have these letters here, but I want you to know that the M stands for slope, and the B stands for the y-intercept. Okay? So when you know already, we're going to do this right over here. I'm going to put a little graph over here and show you how easy it is to graph this line. This is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. And what we found out, we need this written somewhere, that M equals -2. And since I need a rise over a run, I'm going to put this whole number over 1. A rise over run. B is the y-intercept, and we found out that it's 5. But if we write a y-intercept correctly, it's 0, 5, because it's a point on the graph somewhere. Is everybody following me so far?
Yes.
Okay. Isabel, you okay?
Yes,
Okay. All right. So,
I am.
okay, good. So, the only information you need are these 2 things. And the way to get those is to take your equation and solve it for y. Then you can pick out the slope, you can pick out the y-intercept. Now let's graph. You always graph the y-intercept first. Now this is kind of fun. I tutored a student quite some time ago, and I told her that you need to graph the y-intercept first. Graph the b first, and it will always be on the y because it's a y-intercept. And I said, so you graph this first because it's your house, and then you're going to go to your friend's house. So this is your house, and you live on the y-axis. And she said, oh, this is where I be. So if that helps you, remember, you need to graph where you be first. And it's always on the y-axis. So we're going to find the point 0, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your house. This is where you be. You will always live on the y-axis. Then, if you look at the slope like a GPS, this tells you how to get to your friend's house. Okay? We remember that a slope is rise over run. And so from our house, now I'm walking out the front door and I don't know how to get to her house, so I use my GPS. It says to rise a -2 blocks, which means we're going to go down. So here's my house. I don't count it. 1, 2, and then remember I run 1 block. And there's her house. I started at my house, which is on the y-axis. I used the GPS to get to her house, and now I have 2 points, and that's all I need to graph a line. All I need, solve the equation for y, pick out the slope and the y-intercept, graph the y-intercept where you be, graph it first, use the GPS to get to the other one. Easy enough? It looks like a lot of work, but you've already been practicing solving for y for a long, long time. And a week ago, we were picking out the slope and the y-intercept. Now we find out why we were solving for y and picking out the slope and the y-intercept, because that's all it takes to graph a line. Now I'm going to give you one more problem, and I'm going to wait and let y'all see how far you can go on it. Okay? Here we go. If we continue through Wednesday, and it's a possibility I may Zoom from home, which is just going to be the same thing, let me know if you need for me to email some more graph paper to you. The graph paper that we're using in class, I don't know, Isabel, if I sent you any yet. Just
I don't think so, because I can't find them.
Okay, I probably did not. It was an afterthought. Okay, and the one I'm going to send you, you can actually copy
Okay.
on the front and the back. And that way it gives you more graph paper, however you want to do it. Okay, I'm going to give you one here.
Okay.
And I want you all to try to work the problem as far as you can, so I'm going to wait. Then I'm going to work it, and I want you to compare and see how close you get.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes. Solve for y first.
Yes.
Okay, keep working. I'm going to begin to work it, but you keep working. See how far you can go without me. Rebecca, answer to your question. Your minus 6x is perfect, but on the second step, you don't add that 10 back. That's, you just want the y by itself. So where 5y is by itself, circle the y and cover over everything else. And you need to get rid of your 5 by dividing everything by 5. I've got it up here on the board.
I know.
See the second step where you came down with 5y equals 6x minus 10? The first step, right here, Rebecca, the first step you did correctly.
Okay.
You came down with this, which was correct. You came down with that part.
Okay.
When you circle the y, cover this over. That's what you didn't do because you tried to get rid of this again. Cover it over and look at what you need to get rid of. In order to have the y by itself, all you have to do is get rid of the 5. That's why you divided by 5, divide by 5, and divide by 5, and you're done. You tried, so you cover over everything that's not circled. Remember?
Yes.
Okay, so all you had to do was divide by 5, and you're finished. Because the y is by itself. Isabel, how are you doing?
I missed a couple.
Do you understand where, or do I need to explain?
No, I got it.
Figured it out? Okay, good. I'm going to wait just a minute for Rebecca, and then we're going to graph it. Because all the information we need is this, because that's the slope, and this, because it's the y-intercept, or 0, -2.
Okay. I caught up.
Okay, she's caught up. The only thing we need is this information and this information to graph. Remember that we graph our house first, which is where we be. We're on the y-axis always. 0, -2 is right here. So this is where I live or where I be. Now, I want to get to my friend's house, but I've never been there before. So I'm going to use the GPS, which is a rise over a run. So the top says to rise a -6. That means we have to go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we turn and go 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there is her house. Here's the 5. That's how I got there. That's how I got there. I went down 6 because it's a -6 and over 5. And then we simply draw the line between the 2 points. Hopefully a straighter line than that one is. But that's how you graph, simply using an equation. We solve for y, find the slope, find the y-intercept, and graph those 2 points. Any questions?
No.
I know there will be questions coming up when you start to work. Probably there will be, because there always is when you learn something new and when you're practicing. Okay? So if you do, text me. If you need a private Zoom, holler at me and we'll schedule a time when it just be you and me and we talk about it. Or we can FaceTime, or I can answer you on text. You can just text me
Okay.
with problems and let me know what you need help with.
That next page that says MCQ, are we doing that one too?
Yes, because you should be able to, let's look at the first one. MCQ simply means it's a multiple choice questions. That's what the MCQ stands for. Multiple choice questions. So you're supposed to pick, let's look at number 1, or A. Yeah, A. Okay, let's look at number 1, and I'm going to try to do it on here. Move back a little. There we go. Okay. It says which one of these graphs would be the graph of that equation. Okay. It's already solved for y. So if you picked out the slope, what would the slope be?
Oh, let's see, 1, 2, 3.
It's the number in front of the x is always the slope.
The top
See?
right.
It would be the 5, right? The number in front of the x is the slope.
Yeah.
And so since we need a rise and a run, it'll be 5 over 1. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the y-intercept? It's the other number.
The 3?
But it's a -3. Okay,
Yes.
because it comes with a sign. So your first clue, I'm sorry,
B.
is the B. Now the B
Yeah,
will
B.
be on the, oh, you already found the answer? Or you're saying
No.
the B is -3?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the B is -3. And that's the first thing we always graph, right?
Right.
And the y-intercept has to be on the y. So look at all 4 of these. If you look at A, yes, there's a point on -3 on the y, so that could possibly be it. Look at B, choice B. There isn't even a point on the -3. So that one you can mark out immediately because it doesn't have a y-intercept of -3. Then you look at C. Yes, it has a y-intercept of -3.
Let's see.
And D, its y-intercept is in the wrong place, right?
Right.
So our only choices are A and C. Now we've eliminated B and D. So now you have to count the slope. It's a rise of 5, a run of 1.
Let's see.
Let's start at home. Let me see if I can get my finger over there. You're saying it's C, okay? If the slope is 5 over 1, that means we have to rise 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and run 1. Our point is not there. So
No.
it can't be this one. Let's go to A and make sure it is the right one. We know that our y-intercept is here. And then our slope is 5 over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our rise, and our run is 1. And sure enough, there's our friend's house. This A will be the
So
answer.
it's A.
Do y'all see it?
Yes, ma'am.
You take the first equation, go ahead and find the slope and the y-intercept. Just write it right here. The slope and the y-intercept. And if you want to, instead of trying to check these out, graph it yourself. Right here. Right here, just draw you a little graph and see which one matches. You can do it either way.
Okay.
But you're going to pick out the slope and the y-intercept, make sure it's solved for y. It looks like, to make sure all of them, there we go. Every one of them are solved for y. So on this page, all you have to do is pick out the slope, the y-intercept, draw a little graph of your own, see which one matches. Deal? That was a good question. Yes. Now the last page. Let me see here. I think there's a last page on here. It's the page It's the page that we moved from packet 2. We moved from packet 2. It was on the end of packet 2, and we moved it to the end of this packet. I'm going to have to explain this, and it'll probably take a couple of days for you guys to get used to this one. So don't worry about that very last page, but you should be able to do everything else.
Okay.
How do you feel?
Okie dokies.
What'd you say, Rebecca?
Okie dokies.
Okie dokies. You stay warm and comfy. I'm jealous.
Right? I wish you had been able to have stayed home.
Well, possibly. They're having a meeting downstairs, but I told them I needed to do a Zoom with you first. So I'll have to go down and find out what the meeting's about.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and finish and let you guys go. But you know how to get hold of me if you have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
You know I love you.
Mhm.
Stay home.
Me
Stay
too.
safe.
You
Looks
too.
Looks like we're in for it for another couple of days, and I'll let you know as I know. But you'll be getting the Zoom invite just like you get it every time. So no matter whether I'm
Okay.
at home or here at the school, you can get on the Zoom, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
You're most welcome. You know I love you.
Yes. Love you too.
Be
Okay.
careful.
I promise. See you later.